I think it's worth noting too, there's a good 15-year or so age difference between you and him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. If memory serves me right, I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right. But it was one of those things. I mean, we were totally from two different generations. The generation he came from, it was insanity. We saw the very end of that Wild West period during the Attitude Era when we were first breaking into the business. He was the Wild West era of this business. Like it's amazing those guys, the Freebirds, weren't in jail for the rest of their lives, or like some of the things that they've said and done, and just some of the stories I've heard from these guys and just wrestlers in the old timey days. It's amazing those guys aren't all in jail or locked up.
Have you noticed over the years, and I want to get us back on track, but this is a really good point you're bringing up. Have you noticed a change in Michael over the years in adapting with the times? He's coming out, he's got Confederate flag and everything. And I mean, we've heard the accusations in the past of some of the overtures. There was the Mark Henry situation, all that. Have you noticed a change in him as the times have changed in how he handles himself?
Yeah, no, I mean, Michael he has changed as times have changed. I mean, and you have to, especially if you're going to survive in this business. And it's so funny. A lot of the things Michael would say, and he says this all the time, where he grew up in like black neighborhoods, so he actually talks a lot of slang, almost like a black person would, so Michael's a good guy. There's no issues with him when it comes to that. But as far as the way he presents himself and the things he says and does, he has definitely changed a long time, as long as society has.
I just found that very interesting because you're right. There's such a big generational divide there, and it's really fascinating. And he's from the South, Georgia, and all that. So interesting to look into. So
let me even hit this. One of the first times we got to a hotel after we were starting to ride together, we were in a hotel and we'd been driving for a couple hundred miles, and everybody, you know how it is if you're on a long car trip and you're like, oh my God, I have to pee so bad. I can't wait till we get to the bathroom. Oh my God, I have to pee so bad. So we were all kind of, at that point, and we're going out and we go into the bathroom, and I am the first one in, and I use the bathroom and I go back, and then Michael and my brother's there, and I'm getting ready to go back and check in. And I remember Michael, we had stopped at a restaurant where there was a bar, so he was able to drink while I was there, and he was feeling pretty good. He was in a pretty good mood, obviously. And Jeff was in the stall beside him, and he was getting ready to pee in a urinal. He's like, "Hey, Matt, wait, don't go yet. Watch this. And he held his penis. He like grabbed it and he held it real tight. And oh my God, it got huge, the top of it. And then he like let it go, and he shot pee all the way over the stall again to where Jeff was. And just like, screamed and ran out. And that was like a constant rib. The Freebirds did that to each other all the time. And he said, I got to break you guys in. This is something that the birds would always do. The birds would always do this. I'm telling you, when I heard those stories about the Fabulous Freebird and the things the Fabulous Freebirds and what they do, they were insane. But that was one of our first, oh my God, it's so great. We're on the road with our role model. Like, it was one of our first experiences with Michael. It was so fun.
I think the reason I laughed so hard at that, other than thinking of a stream of urine just shooting over a stall, is what your face probably looked like in that moment.
Yeah, it was like this.
What was Jeff's reaction to that?
I was innocent. Hey, man. Wow. He's like, oh, what was that? I think Jeff thought it was something coming out of the ceiling. It was insane, man. It was crazy. Goodness. That was like one of his tricks from the old days, I guess. He'd squeeze his penis so hard too, the top of it would look like a fist. It was insane.
So he's telling
and then it would just explode. It was one of Michael's, I think he's grown out of that now. He's finally matured. But yeah, that was one of our first deals with Michael. And so this is something too, man. JBL, obviously.
I just want to say real quick before you tell that story, like people are going to be like, that sounds like so abusive or like whatever. Like, when you're like living with guys and you're becoming family, it's like he's a family member at that point. So it's a totally different dynamic at that point.
Yeah. Well, no, it certainly, it wasn't abusive. I mean, it was him like being,
it's like your uncle, like your cousin, it's like,
of course. No, I mean, that was just him. That was joking, ribbing. That was like brothers ribbing one another is what it was. And we did learn a lot of that as far as, like what was accepted in those days and age. And once again, we were definitely going to respect him because he was a vet who was taking us under his wing. And, like, dude, I'm just glad we didn't get like the 70s and 80s version of Michael, because if that would have happened, we would probably be dead.
Yeah.
So we got the version of Michael that was tame in comparison,
Yes.
and we get to pick his brain and learn so much.
Okay, so this JBL story, tell me about it.
So it obviously we did the deal where we ended up winning the titles, which I'm sure we'll talk about from the Acolytes later on. And JBL during that time with Michael, he would see like, he would see Michael, talking to us, we'd be going over psychology, things we could work on, improvements, whatever. And like, all right, let's go. And he knew that Michael had told us he wanted to ride together, and we're going to room together, and we're going to break bread together and do everything else. And after talking to JBL every so often, after we'd started working together, he knew like some of our stories with Michael on the road. And then this is something he would say over and over, especially if there was ever a time where we were working with those guys, and like, Michael said, no, come over here. I want to say this, don't do that again, or do this, or do that, or don't do that. He said, Matt, when the Hardys turn on Michael Hayes, they will kill him. And he would tell people all around, he said, just wait, it's building up. When the Hardys turn on Michael Hayes, they will kill him. He would tell Ron that, he would tell Godfather, he would tell anybody that listened, but that was like his constant thing. He's like, I know he's going to drive Michael Hayes is going to drive these kids crazy on the road with him, but like, lo and behold, man, it was, we weren't with him that long, but it was a fun time. Looking back in hindsight, it was a lot of fun, and we learned so much.
Man, I still can't stop thinking about that story. That is an all timer. That is, and I mean, I've been ribbed before, but nothing like that. That is, wow, that's something. So